We all have stories. Stories inspired by culture, competition, creativity. Stories show our humanity. They inspire us to greatness and remind us to be humble. Stories connect us to our communities and the rest of the world. We are the Chutta people, and these are our stories. See and share them at togetherwe'remore.com.
People don't know what it is to be champions. Oklahoma invented it.
And what is up, everybody? Welcome to Through the Keyhole. It's an Oklahoma football podcast. How is everybody doing out there? It's Tuesday, July 28th, and that means we have one more free show. And then guess what? The next day, on August 4th, the team will meet up for the elite weigh-in, whatever they're calling it. And boy, do I look sweaty. Sorry about that. I just got done weed eating. Is it weed eat or weed ate? I don't know. But they come in, they'll get weighed, they'll get measured, and then we're here. Sorry, my wife called me. Oh, well. Live producing. Anyway, we're almost there, everybody. We're all excited. But again, welcome to the show. Welcome to Through the Keyhole. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. This is the end of the month, so it's free. If you would like to jump in and watch us live on the stream while we record it, just go to patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. And we're putting up new stuff, putting up new podcasts, having a good time. But without further ado, let me keep sweating in privately real quick. Alan, say something to the nice people out there.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope everybody's doing well.
Hope everybody's doing well. I'm sure everybody is, but if not, it's going to get better because we're almost to football season. Matt, say something to the nice people.
Hello, how are we? I'm ready to do this, man. Let's go. I'm excited.
You guys are awful at filling time, but it's okay. Everything's fine. My wife's fine. She was just leaving yoga.
Shout out to Harry. Give me compliments on the Jordan Golf hat. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Harry. Did you steal that from Ryan Hibble on the way out?
Yes. Yeah, no, it was gifted to me, but the painting was a gift, Todd. You know,
yeah, I'm keeping this.
Yeah, I'm keeping this.
Ryan, I'm keeping this hat.
We call the hat celebration.
Just
sexual and violent.
What's up, Harry? How you doing, my man? Yeah, everybody, it's patreon.com/throughthekeyhole, keyholepod.com. Alan put out his season prediction a week or so ago. I haven't talked to Alan in a minute because, like some of you all remember from last week, I woke up late from my travel back from Tampa and SEC Media Day, and apologies to that, but I didn't get a chance to talk to Alan. But real quick, Alan, just to kind of, I guess, go backwards just for a little bit. I am shocked that you and I are the optimists going into the season. I was the lone optimist last year in terms of I think you guys had 8-4 and I said 9-3, but now I've got it's a party of two between the two of us for 2026 OU.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's good or a bad thing, right? But yeah, no, I went back and I mean, you know, my rationale was looking back at last season. I mean, I thought that OU was a 10-win team, legitimately. I mean, maybe if you want to knock one win off of their, you know, how they ended up playing for the year, but I don't think that there were a lot of like smoke and mirrors to what OU did last season. And it seems to me like this team improved in all the places it needed to improve. And so like when you look at it from that angle, I have a hard time believing they can't at least kind of maybe just, you know, stay on pace with what they did last year, given that as hard as we thought the schedule was last year, and it probably wasn't in the end quite what we expected, this year looks tougher.
It does look tougher, but I think you're right. Credit to OU for, I mean, some would say that they fluked their way to a few wins, and we've talked about that a zillion times. You don't need to go back into those conversations, but It's a little bit different when you fluke your way to a victory and it's defensively compared to, oh, their offense was just on that night, or there was like a tip ball that landed into a receiver's hand streaking downfield. Like those things you can't replicate because those are truly fluky. But how OU won games last year, dare I say, they're just kind of going into a lot of these games, Matt, and just basically saying, like, we've got better players than you, or we're tougher than you are. I don't care how we win this game, but we're going to win it, and it's going to be ugly. We can win it with our offense. I think everyone's knocking on wood with that one going into 26, or we can beat you with Tate Sandel's high water pants or our defense. So, I mean, it's a good feeling to have.
I mean, it is, especially since it feels like a team that OU fans had kind of been crying out for, right? I mean, the Lincoln Riley, Mike Stoops years, the Alex Grinch, all that stuff. It's just like being out physicaled whenever you were actually playing somebody with a pulse. Like, I mean, even though some of those Kansas State teams, it was like, man, Kansas State always gives OU problems. Well, it's because OU's kind of soft. They've kind of been soft lately. So and Kansas State traditionally not a soft program, especially when Snyder took over until now. But I looking forward to this team. Look forward to seeing what it's like. I don't think that I have questions. The only thing I questioned last year heading in was the defense, because I was like, and again, it was really nitpicky. Like, it's not like I didn't think their defense would be good. It was just more of like, man, Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman played a really big role in this team. Like, what does that look like without them? And I mean, it was pretty seamless. It was a pretty seamless transition. They were way better than they were in 2024. But heading into this year, like, the only like nitpicking I have on defense is literally just the interior of the defensive line. Like, what does that look like? Because the depth wise, mainly, what you're going to get from David Stone and Jaden Jackson, but man, it was such a luxury to also have those two guys and Grayson Halton and Dominic Williams to come in. Like, I mean, the interior of the defensive line, that was super nice to have. Having a guy like R. Mason Thomas doesn't hurt either. But as far as like winning physically, that's like my favorite thing about Georgia is it feels like the first half or so, first quarter, whatever, it's just them testing you physically. It's like, all right, we're just going to try to overpower you and we'll see if you can stop it. And most people can't. And that's been my kind of my gripe with Texas is like, I mean, Texas, every time Georgia tests them, they fold, man. Like they fold every single time. And Georgia and Kirby Smart's like, all right, we're just going to keep punching you in the face and we'll see if you punch back, and you're not going to punch back. Okay, cool. It's kind of fun to see OU's defense at least be that. And also both, I mean, Kirby Smart and Brent Venables, I think, have like a bromance or something. I mean, they're both like uber complimentary of each other always. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Where was that monologue when I needed it, Matt?
Sorry, that's my bad. That's on me.
That's
on
okay.
me.
We have figured out everything logistically. It's okay. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of where you want to be every single year, is be nitpicky. And we talked about this last week when I jumped on, at least. I mean, it was a boring SEC Media Day, which is exactly where you want to be. You want to be nitpicky and boring on SEC Media Day, because if you're not boring, it's probably because, and there's a handful of reasons. Like, one, your head coach could be Lane Kiffin and he can say something wacky, and it doesn't matter what your actual team roster construction looks like. He can just say something that completely overshadows that you have Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, the 85 Bears defense. He just says something stupid, and then that's the story. But for the most part, it's an interesting SEC Media Day for you for, I guess, three reasons. One, your head coach is on the hot seat. Two, you're breaking in a new quarterback. Or three, you're breaking in a new coordinator. And I guess number four would be like injuries. Well, he doesn't have any of those things for the most part. I mean, Brent Venables, we're still trying to find out a lot about him in terms of his long-term future as a head coach, not just in the game, but at OU. 2026 is a big year for that. But OU's not breaking in a new coordinator. John Mateer had his struggles last year, but he's a fairly well thought of quarterback, and a lot of people are willing to just kind of not necessarily hand wave 2025 struggles, but at least be optimistic that there's a lot better to come from him. Whether that comes to fruition, we're all going to find out. So OU overall, not too fun on Monday, but whenever the all SEC teams were released on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it might have been, I think Wednesday was the last day to getting your voting. And another peek behind the curtain, I'll just say this. I did not vote on any all SEC teams. And the reason why, and no one cares about this, but just to be forthright, I don't follow Kentucky football enough. I don't even follow Georgia football enough to make a decision based on like what players are good compared to like the players that I'm way more familiar with. Do certain coaches like to rotate in a lot of guys on defense like Brent Venables does? I don't know those nuances. So I just made the professional decision. I don't know enough, so I'm just not going to participate in voting and dilute the voting pool. But you know what? That didn't stop 3 people. 2 people voted for Oklahoma to win the SEC. I really wonder who those 2 are. I can probably make a few guesses. One of those people was not at SEC Media Day, so maybe not. And one person picked Kentucky, and I'm just curious, how hard did the intern on the working for the SEC giggle when he had to type in an extra row and then type in Kentucky for one vote? I mean, Alan, what is this madness?
Great question, right? That's very professional of you, though, to admit, the limits of your knowledge, and to profess ignorance. But
yeah,
no, I got you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think David Stone's probably one of the best players in the country. I can fully understand why he wasn't an all SEC pick, and we're going to get to that a little bit in terms of the first team. I can understand why, because people covering this conference, covering the teams that they cover in Columbia, Gainesville, they don't follow OU every single week like we do. And so when they go to sportsreference.com and type in David Stone's name and they're like 8 tackles for loss and 1.5 sacks, and we're crowning this dude. Okay. Whatever. So again, I'm just kind of reversing that to understand that I'm not going to know that much about Florida, know that much about South Carolina. So, I mean, who cares about that though?
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I couldn't tell you that much about, especially if OU isn't playing this year. Tennessee, I got no clue, man. So
Heupel doesn't even know who his quarterback is right now.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's a lot going on there, right? I don't know. I think that when you look at it, first of all, the changes to the schedule, that whole thing. I mean, if you're trying to pick kind of like an order of finish, that gets really hard really quickly, just based on this. And it looks like, you're going to have, especially, I mean, the idea that OU might be, tie for third, for example, and but they're with 5 teams. I mean, all of a sudden, you're there in 7th, 8th place. I mean, that's not, to me, it's not like,
yeah.
So, I don't, that part of it is just, it is whatever. I think that, but again, what I brought up at the beginning of the show, though, there is like this perception out there, I think, though, that OU really was like a lot of kind of, sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors to that team last year. And I think, if you are, I don't know, writing for the Athens Bugle or whatever, and you're thinking, OU's probably going to fall off this year, that wouldn't shock me at all. That perception still persists out there.
Yeah, and to be fair to the Athens Bugle or whatever it might be, that kind of should be how you view Oklahoma. Just if you have any type of recent history knowledge of the program, just as it pertains to like Brent Venables, he's not been able to sustain success from one year to the next. And so you can do 2 things at the same time. You can applaud OU for making the playoff last year and going into places like Knoxville, going into places like Tuscaloosa, coming out with victories. You can applaud them for that. At the same time, say like, well, I don't know about doing it again. And I think that that's fair, because until Brent Venables proves it to us, people in Athens, people in Gainesville, or whatever across this conference aren't going to believe the OU hype. And again, I think and OU is picked 7th in this conference in the SEC. So you've got Georgia and Texas is kind of like the by far unquestioned 2 best teams in the conference, kind of in a tier of their own, followed by Ole Miss, Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma from 3 to 7. And those teams are separated in terms of the total points that led into the conference rankings. They are separated by, I'm just going to say 70 points from OU to Ole Miss. So,
yeah, I think it's about 90, but yeah.
Or 90, yeah.
Very out of these teams are in the 2000s, so I mean it's minuscule.
Yeah. You've got OU with 1,914 points, and then right above them is Alabama, 1,930, then 961 for LSU, just to give better perspective of how close it is. But really all that to me, Matt, just kind of screams, even if you have a more pessimistic take on OU, kind of based on what I was saying earlier about, hey, good job last year, but I don't know because Brent's not been able to do it yet from year to year, you can be optimistic about OU. When I see them at 7th, that just to me says, well, they don't have a transcendent quarterback like a Trinidad Chambliss. That's probably why Ole Miss is all the way up at 3 below Texas. And they also have the toughest schedule, probably not just in the conference, but in the country, in terms of teams that can truly threaten for a playoff appearance or even more. Because I think Arkansas is, every time I see like toughest schedules in the country, Arkansas is always above OU, but Arkansas is not competing for shit this year. So of the teams that matter, OU's got the toughest one. So when I see them at 7th, Matt, that's just more of a nod to that schedule is tough. They could go 8-4. We could all clap and say they were really good. That was just a very tough schedule, and I think that's kind of where everybody lands with them.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think that it's a thing of like, oh, they go 8-4 and they get blown out in those 4 losses. Like, I don't think that any media members, I don't want to speak, maybe they're like Texas media members that feel like that, but I feel like for the most part that the defense has gotten the SEC respect, I think, as far as like media members and all that stuff, fans. The defense has gotten it. The offense just hasn't. And to me, like, I mean, you kind of alluded to it, Brady, with just Ole Miss, but I mean, if you look at the top 5 teams, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, A&M, LSU, they all really don't have a question about quarterback, like, at all. I mean, even LSU, Sam Leavitt, nobody's questioning how good Sam Leavitt is. Like, I mean, he was good at Arizona State. He was just injured last year. But, I mean, A&M, you got Marcel Reed coming back, who played pretty well last year, went to the playoff as well. Obviously, Chambliss, Arch Manning, and Gunnar Stockton. And then, like, the 2 immediate ones after that, I mean, you have Alabama, who, I mean, is it going to be Austin Mack or is it going to be Keelan Russell? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's a big question mark, but they're up there at 6 because they're Alabama, right? I mean, people still will give Alabama the benefit of the doubt. And then OU with Mateer. It's just like, hey, we think we like the idea of John Mateer, but we don't know. Last year was like incomplete. So for me, the top 5 just reads as like, hey, we kind of know what's happening at quarterback, and the rest is like we don't really know.
We don't really know, but I mean, I think you're right. Other than the one thing we've kind of talked about this, but maybe we have. I've done so many. I mean, I'm not bragging here, Matt. You have a radio show, so anytime I get to fill in, it's fun for me still. But I filled in on the franchise 4 days last week. I'm filling in on Friday. Have the Patreon show that I'm doing now on Thursdays. Somewhere in those appearances, I've questioned Sam Leavitt. So maybe I'm just the lone dork on this. I understand Lane Kiffin's a good quarterback coach, good play caller, good offensive mind. I recognize Sam Leavitt has had success, but I think that had a lot to do with the CTE freak he had on his team 2 years ago at Arizona State and Cam Scadaboo.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's such a surefire.
I think he might get like the new shine, like,
well, that's what it
out,
is,
if you will. Like, I mean, we haven't seen him do it in the SEC, but he did really well. Like, I mean, I will say
Kiffin
that, like,
also.
Yeah, Kiffin. I mean, he's made it really easy on that. But like, yeah, I mean, like John Mateer had some of that similar shine coming in last year.
He did,
but it didn't result in like OU getting picked very well in the preseason because they were coming off being 6 and 7.
Yeah, and then, I mean, other than that, I would just also say if I'm an LSU fan, the way that I follow OU, I would be like, I'm excited about Sam Levitt. Hopefully it works, and his name escapes me. But didn't LSU like really want that 5'10" kid from Washington to enter the portal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come on,
that
Williams.
was yeah.
That, and I
If,
think
you
they
know,
really wanted Brendan Sorsby too.
I do remember hearing
Yeah,
that also. Yeah.
I can't remember if there were other names that at least OU fans were talking about in terms of the quarterback to come with Ben Arbuckle. I'm pretty sure it was overwhelmingly like John Mateer. But if it had come out that offseason that OU was trying to go after X, Y, and Z quarterback, and they kind of had to settle for John Mateer, that would have tempered my expectations, because it's like, well, if they didn't want him that bad or they wanted someone better, that just, I mean, how am I supposed to feel about that? So
Hell, Levitt might have been fourth, because I think I obviously forgot. Option number one was probably Trinidad Chambliss for Lane Kiffin. It's like, hey, please go here. And I mean, it would have been really cool to have an LSU quarterback named Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, that would have been just like hand in glove, man. That would have been awesome.
I mean, why did that not happen? I was just so
Chambliss talked about it. He said that, or Pete Golding was asked about it at SEC Media Days. He said that he told Kewan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss, he said, if you guys want to be like that guy that just left, who they would have built a statue of like 3 days ago before he left, but now they wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire. If you guys want to be like him, go ahead. And I think they were just like, all right, you know what? Cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, hard to argue with that, but still just kind of surprising. But I guess back to the OU-ness of the pod, we don't really need to focus too much on the first team offense. Of course, there's no OU players on the first team. On the second team, you've got Isaiah Satania, wide receiver. Maybe that's a very good nod to his season last year. He was a second team All-SEC player at the end of the season last year. You also have Michael Fasusi, which, considering that he wasn't even named to any of the all freshman teams in the SEC, that's a huge nod of respect to him. And I can't remember the guys' names, y'all, but I remember looking into like the Tennessee left tackle and somebody else, and just going like, I know everyone that's voting for these things is looking at Pro Football Focus, because how the hell else are you going to judge offensive line play? And Fasusi kind of blew both those dudes out of the water. So again, like the coaches vote on it. They know more about football than I do, but still surprising that he wasn't recognized last year, considering how well he played as an 18-year-old true freshman. Who third team exists. Oh, well. But you get to the first team defense, and that's where there's a lot of, I guess, discourse about disrespect or pessimism as it pertains to Oklahoma. First team defensive line, Colin Simmons, Will Eccles, I believe that's how you say his name, from Ole Miss, Dylan Stewart from South Carolina, and the Prince Will kid. I cannot say his last name. Matt, can you do it?
Umain Mielen.
Okay, that's a very interesting name. Formerly of Ole Miss, also formerly of Nebraska, currently LSU, because it's 2026. Well, and I know, like everyone at the time was probably thinking, well, where's David Stone? Where's Taylor Wine? Hell, where's Jaden Jackson? Jaden Jackson, not even a part of the first, second, or third team all SEC teams. David Stone, Taylor Wine are on the second team. And I forgot to put this on the doc, guys, so I'll just kind of explain it really quickly. I had this thought in my head, and then I went in and did some of the research to see if my hypothesis had some merit, and it still may not. Alan, Matt, you feel free to please poke holes into it. But we all know Brent loves to send in waves of dudes on defense so that his guys, A, are healthy throughout the season, and B, that they're fresher in the fourth quarter. Like your best players are fresher in the fourth quarter if you're not relying on them to play 60, 70, 80 snaps a game, which I think the average snap count for an SEC offense the last few years has been about somewhere in the 70s. So just kind of remember that in your head. So I thought surely that has kind of affected how a lot of these media members, when they're asked to write down their starting all first team SEC team or players, they'll just go to stats. They know they're familiar with their teams and their players, and they'll go to stats for the other one. Well, like I just said earlier, David Stone's stats do not scream best player in the country or one of the best players in the country. They just simply doesn't. And Peyton has been very adamant about his lack of numbers. And numbers don't dictate everything, and Peyton would be the first one to tell you that. But he's been very like, hey, if you're going to be that dude, then I'm going to need to see more than 1.5 sacks. And I'd be willing to agree. At the same time, though, I did the math. I looked it up, and David Stone had 40 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. He did that in 454 snaps. William Eccles, who got the first team nod, 68 total tackles, 11 and a half tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. So very good numbers. He did that in nearly 200 more snaps. He had 621 snaps for Ole Miss in 2025. And I'll jump ahead because I have the article open because, again, no first-team Oklahoma players on the All-SEC first team. Kip Lewis, 546 snaps last year, 76 total tackles, 10 and a half for tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. Those 76 tackles put him at number 18 in the SEC, and his 10 and a half tackles ranked him at number 14 in the conference. So pretty good year. But I think we can all kind of agree, well, Kip Lewis is not the 18th best linebacker in the SEC. So there's something afoot here. Oh, wait, is it just because that OU has the advantage of depth, at least last year? That's a big question for this defense in 2026. Maybe these guys will have to play more. Maybe that'll be better. Maybe it won't. But he had 546 snaps, and those numbers Kip Lewis did. The 2 guys that were ahead of him, Rasheem Biles at Texas, Whit Weeks at LSU. Now, a little bit of a caveat with Whit Weeks. He only played 8 games last year. Disappointing season for LSU. Who knows how bought in he was. He only played 309 snaps in 2025, but he played 669 snaps in 2024. So his reputation is being propped up by a really great 2024 season. Plus, he's a name that people know. Rasheem Biles, he only played about 60 more snaps than Kip Lewis, which again is nearly an extra game. And remember, Kip Lewis actually played an extra game did Texas and OU play the same amount of games? They did, didn't they? Okay, so they played the same amount of games.
Biles is from Pittsburgh, but he played 10 games last year.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Yeah, Biles had less games, but basically played an extra game's worth of snaps over Kip Lewis. And he had 101 total tackles, 17 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks. So all this to say, if you're still upset that OU didn't have any first-team guys, just remember it's more than likely because of one of OU's greatest advantages, and it's just their depth. And unfortunately, in a preseason environment, it's going to take away from some accolades. But I think based on what they were able to do last year, Alan, I'll start with you, because they have that kind of built-in memory. If OU is able to go 9-3, 10-2, make the playoff again, you're going to see Kip Lewis's name on Butt-Kiss lists. You're going to see Owen Heineke's name on Butt-Kiss lists. You're going to see David Stone first team All-SEC. Even if he doesn't have all the stats, if he just simply has slightly more stats, that built-in reputation he's now been able to enjoy is going to lead to what everyone cares more about, postseason accolades.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt, if Oklahoma is, a 10-2 team at the end of this season for the second year in a row playing in the SEC, all these guys are going to be showing up on those lists because they will have to have played well, in all honesty, well enough to be in that kind of consideration. I mean, it's kind of silly, the idea that you're picking out 3 finalists for the Butkus or the Lombardi or whatever, given how many players there are out there in college football. But no, I think that absolutely you'll see plenty of OU players in the mix for all those types of accolades at the end of the season, if that happens. Yes.
Yeah, and I think another factor you can kind of take away from all this nonsense, because again, it's preseason stuff. It's nonsense, but it does paint a picture about what you've been able to do as an individual player, what you've been able to do as a program. I think probably the more important thing is, Matt, if you just total up first, second, and third team Oklahoma Sooners, they have the third most in the conference. So while they don't have, in the eyes of the media, all the top end talent, the depth is there, and the wealth is spread around this roster. So, I mean, that's a good place to be. I mean, I think OU fans like this idea because the 2000 national championship, you start off at 19th or 21st in the nation. No one's talking about you. You win your easy warm up games, and then you kill Texas, who was 11th at the time. But then it's like, that was cool. That's a step in the right direction. But going to Manhattan and then playing Nebraska 2 weeks later, number one team in the country, like, I'll believe it when I see it. And then they were able to do it and then win the national championship. So I think OU fans like this idea of, don't let anyone talk about us, and we'll just kind of win games as the season goes along. And when you have the third most players in the best conference in America on your preseason teams, like that means something.
It absolutely does, man. And hey, OU's got the specialists preseason team on lock. I mean, they've got that market cornered pretty much. But if you want to just take a step back and be like, okay, well, how much do I actually like put stock into these preseason teams? My thing is zero. Like the games haven't been played yet, so I mean, there's zero stock to be put in. But especially this one, the third team tight end, Willie Rodriguez of Kentucky, last year had 310 yards and 1 touchdown. So, okay, sure, yeah, absolutely. Maybe he's a really good blocker, so maybe that's why he's on the team.
Hell,
but,
if Jaron Kanik had an extra year of eligibility and was playing tight end for OU, he'd be on one of these teams probably.
Exactly. But even more so, Grayson Miller, the second team punter for OU, he might not even be OU's punter this year. He was the first team All-SEC punter last year, so that's why I'm sure people gave him some votes. But here's where I really, really hope that this is like a misprint from the SEC, because if it's not, here's where hey, I'm not putting any stock in these media members and what they're doing. If you look at the specialists, and if you look at kickoff specialist, right, the first team is Tate Sandell of OU. The second team, Lucas Carnero of Ole Miss, who is a kicker. Third team is Terry Bussey of Texas A&M, who is a wide receiver and returner. He's not on the return specialist list, but he's on the kickoff specialist list, which is like, I don't know, guys. Two of them are kickers and one of them is a returner.
Well, yeah.
So people just didn't read it, I guess. So if you want to take these with a grain of salt, you can.
Well, I mean, Isaiah Satania, a return specialist. So I guess return specialist would be both punt and kickoff return.
That's what I would guess, right?
Okay, because I was going to say, like, I wonder if someone just saw kickoff specialist and thought kickoff
Either
returner.
way, it's bad. If it's supposed to be returner, and then if it's supposed to be a kicker, like, either way, it's bad. Yeah. So I would take these lists with a grain of salt a little bit.
It's a work, brother. It's just a work.
Unless Terry Bussey is going to be the kicker on kickoffs. He'd be probably the first kicker for kickoffs and kick returner in history, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, guys, I was in and out in Tampa, and it was a lot. I mean, part of that is just the travel and the turnaround. But even just when I think about the day of when it started, I got to the hotel where the conference center where it was taking place. I got there around 7:15 in the morning, and I left super early. Like, I basically left after OU's players and Brent were done with all their media obligations, and they just left and went to the airport and went back to Norman. I left mainly because the Wi-Fi started to suck really bad, and I couldn't upload any photos. So I just went back to my hotel, but that was still at like 5:30, which is a normal work day. Like, I know, like, people go in at 8 and they leave at 5, but it was just so much running around. It was so much trying to focus on get this out, go talk to this person. The player's going to be in the corner in this big auditorium, get the video, ask the questions, have ideas for stories in your head. It was just a lot. I can't imagine what people's brains are like when they stay at these fucking things for 3 or 4 days. So if on day 3 someone said, Terry Bussey, then I don't blame them. I'm not going to cry foul on that one. But good eye on that one, Matt. Good job. I didn't even notice that. That's
enough
silly.
People voted for it to where he's.
There's a lot of tired
they gave
people.
it to like one. Yeah, maybe they gave it to one guy. They're like, here, your job today is to do the kickoff specialist, and he got the wrong thing. He got mixed up.
Terry Bussey voted for himself.
Yeah, he snuck in and voted for himself. Will Stein is the guy that snuck in and voted for Kentucky to win. the SEC.
What
It's
confident man. What a confident dude. I mean, I liked his
man.
quotes. I liked the things that he said. If he was a head coach at Oklahoma, like starting out, I mean, it's like, what's not to like? We'll see what the coaching does, but someone thought them good enough to win the SEC. Let me just.
He's got a few ex-Sooners on his team. Nick Anderson at wide receiver, and then Javonte Barnes at running back.
I just want to take a gander at their schedule real quick. Let's see.
They play at OU.
State, yeah, Youngstown State, Alabama. That's in Lexington. At Texas A&M, South Alabama, at South Carolina, LSU, at Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, bye week. Ooh. At Tennessee, Florida, at Missouri, Louisville. The good news is they don't have to beat Louisville to win the SEC, or at least heavily compete for it. But I don't know, man. There's no such thing as an easy schedule in this conference. So sorry, Kentucky. Color me as someone who does not believe.
Forgot that CJ Baxter ended up at Kentucky too. One of the many Texas Longhorns that Sark had to kick off the team. Had to say, you guys got to get out of here. We got to sign Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown and Cam Coleman.
Calm down, Matt. We're not there yet. We will talk about that in a little bit.
Lance Hurd is at Kentucky.
Yes, Lance Hurd.
The Odyssey is the biggest movie in America right now. Talk about his journey across America, playing college, the sport that we love, and he's just trying to find Ithaca. It's very sad. Let that man go home.
Would Kentucky be the Cyclops or would it be the Sirens? I don't know.
I mean, that's it. Table that one. I'll try to think. I guess the next thing we can talk about, I guess that's another Patreon team. You don't need to spend that much time on it. In fact, I just want to mention it. But Alan, I'll let you introduce this topic in terms of where to find it, who wrote it, what the general gist is. Very, very intriguing and interesting article. Very good look at OU's program since I believe the timeline started in 2010 under Bob Stoops. But please go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. My friend Dave Bartu of Matrix Analytical Solutions. He's one of these quant guys out there who's trying to do more analytical type stuff, advanced stats when it comes to college football. He has a proprietary measure that he calls, I think, matrix game control. Now, again, I don't have a lot of insight into what goes into this, but I mean, the way he looks at it, he says it's a very highly predictive in terms of, if you're controlling a game, who's going to be the winner at the end of the game, what all that entails. And there are different kinds of ways to measure it. I think that there's for example, close rate would be if you do control the game or win game control, do you then finish out and go ahead and get the win? And, different coaches do, score better or worse on things like that. What it says for OU is that Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley were both very good at winning game control, and they were also very good at closing games, right? So they get out. Generation rate, I believe, is just how much or how often a team controlled the game decisively. Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley, those were both very high on the generation rate, also on the close rate, which is how often you win when you do control the game. Survival rate is a little bit of a different story, though. Survival rate refers to winning games when you don't also win game control. And it found that Bob Stoops, a lot of coaches, Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley weren't great at that. But comparing Brent Venables, he wasn't as good on the generation and close side, but he was really good, highly regarded, 5 stars, I think, as a survival rate coach in terms of winning games that really you shouldn't, which is just an interesting finding. It's one of those things where, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it for a defensive coach. I mean, offense tends to be what dictates the action in a game. Defense teams to, responds. If you're going to then dominate a team, it kind of makes sense that your offense would be doing the dominating. If you're going to upset a team, it makes sense because defense might, get a lucky turnover, get a stop inside the red zone, that type of things that can potentially flip a game. So it was just something to think about. I mean, I also have to wonder again if stuff like generation rate, which is there again, how often you decisively control the game, if that ultimately is going to come down to with how if teams, do the teams with the best players end up also winning that kind of on that dimension as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, like I said, it's a really great look at where the program was 15 years ago and where it could potentially go. I mean, 2026 is such a compass year for the program, for Brent Venables. Like, it's going to tell us a lot about the immediate future. To me, like, that means like the next 5 years. Like, if it goes well, if OU makes it back to the playoff, maybe if they win a game in the playoff, God forbid, I would then probably say pretty confidently that entering the 2030s, Brent Venables will be a really old head coach, but he will be the head coach at Oklahoma. Like that to me is how important this season is. And the West of Everest guys made a really good point about next season in 2027. We don't need to get too far ahead of ourselves, but one of the many reasons why this year is very important is because on paper, OU is going to be not as good in 2027 for a lot of reasons. You're losing guys like Jaden Jackson, David Stone, John Mateer is going to be gone. If you're good this year, that's going to help Ben Arbuckle look into the portal if they don't feel like Bo Bentley is ready. It's going to give them more cachet on the portal market to go find a bridge quarterback to keep the program at a high level fairly steady. If they don't do well, then obviously we're all going to be upset, but also the bad recruiting classes of 2024 and 2025, that's when 2027, that's when those guys are redshirt sophomores or juniors. And maybe some of these guys are destined to be late bloomers and awesome, but it's just not a very confident feeling to have knowing the loss of talent you're going to have after this season. So again, this is a gigantic season, but go check out that article on patreon.com/through the keyhole. You don't have to be a paid subscriber for the first month. You can go check it out. And if you like what we do, please consider helping and supporting. We would appreciate that. We put out written articles like 2 or 3 a week once the season goes along. Extra podcasts. Peyton's still doing the preseason preview podcasts every week or so whenever I believe he's getting someone scheduled for the end of the week. And then I've got my own little solo show that I've been doing because I liked when we started Keyhole and we would do like the Thursday show. So that's just me kind of bringing it back for the OG Keyholers for that one. So that one's fun, but go check out patreon.com/the keyhole. Last week I did talk about the article in depth, so I had some thoughts on it. But I guess moving forward, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this one either, guys, because we've said our 2 cents on the tight ends. But I'll just say this. We don't need to go into, do we think these guys are going to be good, like the vast improvement. I am just kind of shocked, Matt, that Jim Nagy, Brent Venables, they're just like puffing their chest out and saying the tight end room is transformed. And I'm just like, man, that's a lot of praise and hype to thrust on something because like your casual OU fans are going to hear that and expect Jermaine Gresham, fair or unfair. And the tight ends can be very good next year, but if they're not Jermaine Gresham, that casual OU fan is going to be very upset because they feel like they were promised something amazing, and what they got was what should be the status quo of tight end play at a place like the University of Oklahoma, which is very good, but not transcendent. And again, that's me projecting some of my own thoughts or interpretations on Jim Nagy and Brent Venables talking about the tight end room, Matt. But again, it's just when you've got your GM saying, yeah, we've got 3 NFL tight ends on this roster, like, okay, like I'm willing to listen, but boy, that's quite the praise.
It's very high praise, and you hope it's not an improvement to where like the OU offense improved from 2024 to 2025, right? Where it's like, yeah, it improved, but it couldn't have got much worse than in 2024, right? Like it was improved, but not by much. But it was still better. But yeah, no, I'm excited about the tight end room, man. Like again, I don't I'm not sitting here saying, hey, they're all gonna have 7 touchdowns apiece. That'd be great, but I think for what they're asked to do, I mean, I remember early in the offseason, Allen had the had the ask of like, can you get a tight end who can catch and block? Can you get one guy who can do both of those things? That would be an improvement massively. So I don't know. I mean, you're right, Brady. I mean, when Jim Nagy says there's 3 NFL tight ends on the roster, I mean, yeah, your expectations go to, okay, those guys are going to be playing on Sundays. It's time for those guys to play like it, right? I mean, it's time for that to completely overhaul. And like I said, I mean, it probably can't get much worse at the tight end spot. I only like half count Jaron Kanik as a tight end last year. He was slot wide receiver, a bigger slot wide receiver, really. But yeah, I'm hoping that it is a far cry. And we have to be honest here. Joe John Finley is not the coach anymore. So that's could be really good. Could be really, really good there. Feel the same way a little bit in the running back room, but we'll see. We'll see. At the very least, I mean, you got what's going to be a future Hall of Famer in the NFL as your tight ends coach. So it might not be like right away. I think these guys will be pretty good, but you've already seen it in the recruiting stuff with Seneca Driver, the #1 tight end in the 2027 class committed. Like, I think that's more so where it's like, okay, the talent is going to improve drastically year over year with just Jason Witten being there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Joe John Finley because for whatever reason, because obviously I know he's gone because Jason Witten's here. We've talked about this, but I am more concerned that DeMarco is gone. And we've mentioned that a lot more than Joe John being gone. Like that was just kind of it just ended, and OU officially never said that he was let go or that he left or anything. It was just Jason Witten's here. And it's like, well, where's the other guy? Where's that release? Oh, well, who cares? I mean, and you said it in defense of the thought from Jim Nagy, who again knows talent when he sees it, especially NFL talent. In defense of that thought, I mean, like you said, Jaron Kanik did get drafted, and based on his athleticism alone, which is very intriguing, as a pass catcher, I think that's just the general descriptor I would use for Jaron Kanik at this point, not necessarily a tight end, but it is what it is. I mean, but again, Alan, whenever you hear coaches kind of go out of their way to beat the drum over something that maybe struggled last season and say, guys, it's going to be better before they actually start playing games. Like having worked in marketing for 5 years, I just can't help it. Like, are they trying to market the team here or trying to get people like on board? Because there's really no need. I think more people are concerned about, is the offensive line going to make the running game better? Is that going to make John Mateer better? Is he going to be a more efficient passer of the football and not make boneheaded mistakes, twice or thrice a game? That to me is the more important thing, but they're just like, nah, tight ends, bro.
Well, for one thing, they transformed the room through the transfer portal, right?
Yes.
So for Jim Nagy, I mean, it's a case of highlighting, a position where he has a big hand in shaping what that room looks like. So it makes sense that, for Jim Nagy, this is a real big deal. Now, he also didn't have much input last year on the tight end room, and it was terrible. Right. So, I mean, I don't think it would be an understatement. You'd have a hard time in my mind finding a single position group like anywhere in the country that has been upgraded as much as OU's tight end room has. I know that's not, again, I realize it sounds hyperbolic. I've been going back and just zeroing in on the tight ends from last year, and it is so bad. It is, I mean, so, I've gone over this a lot. I don't know. I mean, in marketing, I also wouldn't underrate how much a tight end means to an offense. In terms of versatility and in terms of, not being a giveaway. I mean, Jaren Kanik's out there as your only tight end. You're really not getting much on the blocking side of it. Teams aren't even that worried about what he can do as a blocker, So I think, I mean, I don't know if you want to take a level of skepticism to what they're saying about the time position as a marketing tool, I think that that's fine. I also think that there are other positions that I'd rather be zeroed in on as a marketing tool,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The tight end it's a very fun, flashy luxury to have. If you have a tight end that's not only good at the basic things that tight ends do, like blocking, but also if they're a dynamic pass catcher, that becomes again, like you don't have to be Jermaine Gresham to be a matchup nightmare. I mean, if Hayden Hansen just simply becomes a safety net on third down for John Mateer, with his size, that's a matchup nightmare for opposing linebackers to be like, oh God, this dude's a giant behemoth and I can't do anything about it. If John just lofts the football in the air, it's just like, it's just basketball at that point. I mean, speaking of West of Everest, I'll respond to a little bit of what they talked about because Grant on the show, and again, I was on West of Everest on Sunday, so if you don't listen to their show for whatever reason, I'm sure a lot of you all do, go listen to their show, go listen to my little segment at the end, but listen to the whole thing. Grant has been, he's one of those people who believes that your tight end should not be the end-all be-all when it comes to your run game, because he's of the opinion that Ben Arbuckle, whoever is in charge of like really scheming up the run game, leans too heavily on the tight ends. To that, I would say, well, in 2025, you've got two true freshmen on your offensive line, and then you ended up having a third redshirt freshman on the offensive line. So I can understand just from a physical standpoint, those guys are not physically matured yet. They're not their NFL bodies just yet. I can understand saying we need an extra body or two to like help out with the block schemes. Maybe in 2026, with these guys being a year older, you don't need to rely on tight ends that much in the blocking game. But if it's also just because like, no, Ben Arbuckle does like to do that, I'm just like, who cares? Just get more bodies on like in the trenches and win the battle. They could not do that last year. I think with Hayden Hansen and his experience doing it at Florida at a really high level in terms of blocking guys up consistently, that's an improvement. That will help the running game. And I think between Jack Van Dorsler or Rocky Beers, probably Van Dorsler with his experience at Tennessee, he's going to be able to help out as well. In fact, Heupel started Van Dorsler as a true freshman last year in large part because he was physically ready to help out in the run game. So all these things should happen. But again, we were all excited about Jade Knott in 2025, and that did not ever even start. It never even began. So, oh well. But hey, tight end's a shiny, flashy toy. Okay, so I wanted to end the OU thing with a fun little segment, and I'm not going to hold anybody to this. This is just kind of for funsies. We're not going to reference this back and say Alan or Matt or I was wrong about this happening. But the segment is just going to be very simple. You get to select one SEC coach that you truly believe will be fired this year, but he's also a coach that in 2027 would be on Oklahoma staff as an assistant coach that Brent Venables would want. So, I mean, we can just go through the candidates. We don't need to say all the coaches that we think are going to be fired. Just simply a coach who will be fired in the SEC in 2026 that will then be on OU staff in 2027. I thought that would be a fun little exercise. So let's just go through them in alphabetical order in terms of the school. You've got Kalen DeBoer. That's interesting. Let's table that for a second. I don't know, because if OU had just held on to that 17-point lead, he's at Michigan right now. So that's him leaving of his own volition, but there's probably a lot of pressure making that decision easier for him because of following Nick Saban and all the pressure that comes with that. But Kalen DeBoer, that might be interesting, but let's hold on to that one for a second. Arkansas, Ryan Silverfield, they're going to suck this year. They're not going to fire him unless, Alan, is there like a Michigan man for Arkansas that if he became available, they would just say, screw it, we're firing Ryan?
No, I guess, yeah, no, I don't think so. I guess if they don't win a game, right? I've seen that happen a few times, and I don't know that's on the table. Arkansas has got, I think, at least one FCS team on the schedule, so they'll win a game. Yeah, North Alabama. But I mean, maybe they'll get a win against Tulsa. I don't know. But I no, I don't see Silverfield. He's not on the block.
Okay. Alex Golish at Auburn. I mean,
No.
I think that's a good hire. Auburn's just a weird school. It's really hard to be successful there because they're run by a bunch of weirdos. But he'll be fine. John Summerall, very good coach. I think good situation at Florida, but they're going to struggle this year. But it's still going to be hard for OU to go into the Swamp and win on November 1st. Kirby Smart, he is entrenched. Will Stein at Kentucky, we talked about him. He's not getting fired. Lane Kiffin, I mean, he's more likely to just leave of his own free will. Jeff Lebby, a former coordinator of Brent Venables, maybe gets fired. I don't know if Brent Venables and OU would want to entertain that, though, based on how the Jeff Lebby experience ended. Not that his offenses were bad, even though they kind of were. Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri.
Okay. If he gets fired,
Matt, don't do it.
I would be okay with hiring him just so Brent could give him swirlies every day. I think that just put his head in the toilet, flush it every day. It would be worth it. It would be so worth it.
Brent would hire him and say, "All right, Eli, we're going to go run stairs." And he's just like, "What? No, no, my glasses are fogging up." Whatever.
Fogging up. Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I would be, if Eli Drinkwitz's only job was to get swirlies every day, that's how I would hire him at OU.
We got Pete Golding at Ole Miss. I've got questions about Pete Golding as a head coach, but I think the playoff run bought him some. If they're an absolute disappointment this season, I don't think they'd fire him.
No, because he'd get notice hey, next year you better show it.
Yeah. No different than Brent Venables after his first season at 6-7. Not that he probably got the you better, but there was a lot of pressure to what the hell was that shit? You need to correct that. Maybe not from the administration. Probably, definitely not from the administration. Shane Beamer at South Carolina. We already got Jimmy in the chat saying Shane Beamer, a former assistant of OU, but that was under Lincoln Riley. But that is certainly a name that I've thought of in terms of projecting 2027 based on how I think 2026 will go.
I think he's one of only two realistic ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that he seems like the most obvious one to me. Beamer's also, I don't know. I think he's fairly well liked in the coaching profession. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me too if Brent brought him back for that reason, if he was available.
Of all the coaches, probably jives the best with Brent Venables' coaching culture. He high energy guy, very likable personality. Recruits really like him. And again, South Carolina's got the jersey patch on. I'd imagine it's very difficult to recruit there. And he still, despite their lack of success other than one season, he still recruited fairly well on both sides of the ball, to his credit. And it doesn't hurt that. I mean, I don't really love Lenore Sellers as a quarterback. He's definitely it's unquestioned how great he is as an athlete. But it doesn't hurt to have Lenore Sellers be from South Carolina. So, sometimes you get afforded some advantages. Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Uh-oh. Don't think that I haven't fan fictioned that into my head about come back home, man. It's not going to be as bad as it was last time. Build that bridge back up.
That's
I don't know
though. Realistic one.
I don't know. There's
realistic one.
A lot of the old millennial crews are going to be #FUJH. I remember that early Twitter days. Not that I participated in that, of course. I was in college at the time. I did not participate in that. Maybe I
think Josh would get another job though. I do.
I think he'd same with DeBoer, but we can go back to that one. I think that they'd both be in demand.
Okay. Steve Sarkisian at Texas. I know how Peyton feels. Alan, Matt, are you guys of the opinion that Sark is the Texas head coach in 2027? And that's this is regardless of if let's say they win the national championship, which they could very well, or they disappoint once again, don't even make the playoff. Do you think he's going to be the head coach in 27?
I would lean to yes.
Okay. So both scenarios?
I kind of do too.
I mean, I don't think he's going to get fired. I think if he were to leave, it would be of his own volition to take a job in the NFL. But if you ask me to bet one side if he's there or not, he'll be in Texas.
Okay. All right. Well, we already teased that we were going to talk about Sark's comments from SEC Media Day. We'll go in a little bit more on Sarkisian once we get there. After him, you've got Mike Elko at Texas A&M. Do not think so. They like him. He's a very good coach.
I would love it though.
I've got
if they did fire him, I'd love to have him. Bring him on.
Bring him on.
Bring him on if they want to fire him. Yes, please do.
What do you want to coach? Just call. Brent's like, what do you want? Just tell me. And he's like, defensive coordinator. And Brent's like, maybe. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, very good coach. Vanderbilt lost a lot of talent, and I believe they're starting a 18-year-old 5-star.
Yeah, but he's like a number one quarterback in the country type. I mean, it's a big deal for them.
I mean, Vanderbilt should have some expectations, but I mean, it's going to be very hard for them to win with an 18-year-old in this conference. And
I don't think
a lot
that
of
he
the
gets
experience
fired.
they had.
Yeah, he's very well liked there. Yeah.
No. Okay, so of those coaches, we basically have. I'm going to put Kalen DeBoer into this conversation. It might not be fair. I mean, realistically, do I think he'd be fired? No, but I think that if they don't make the playoff or they make the playoff and they're just kind of one and done, and they beat OU last year, but they were destroyed so thoroughly against Indiana that it almost kind of the shine of them winning in Norman was just kind of like, I could see OU fans, if that happened, being like, I mean, who gives a shit? You just embarrassed yourself. Yes, against the eventual national champion, but this is Alabama or this is Oklahoma. Like, have a better showing. So I'm going to put Kalen DeBoer in there. And again, less firing and more maybe mutual parting of ways between both parties, maybe. Eli Drinkowitz, Jeff Lebby, Shane Beamer, and Josh Heupel. So, Matt, of those gentlemen, who's on OU staff in 2027, if any of these guys are let go or not coaching at their current school?
Yeah, if they are fired and let go, and if they have any interest in coming to OU, I would say Shane Beamer as the most realistic one for me.
And what, again, who is he coaching? Like, I know he was kind of like because his last name's Beamer, people credited him for like special teams.
He did have special, he did have special teams at OU. He had special teams and tight ends.
Okay, so he's an offensive guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's not replacing Witten, but you think,
you find something for him on the staff. And I'm also going to throw this little caveat. I should have probably done this at the beginning, but I'm a terrible host. Let's say OU goes 10-2, which means they're off. Let's say that their offense does make a jump from the 50s SP plus to the top 30. So that would probably mean that Ben Arbuckle is fielding a call or two. Maybe not from high-end Big Ten, SEC, high-end Big 12 job, but he's fielding calls for a head coaching position because of the success that he had in his second year at OU in the SEC. He'd be a hot commodity in the coaching ranks. Whether or not he would leave is really up to you guys, because then you can just say, well, Kalen DeBoer will be the OC or Josh Heupel will be the OC or whatever. So with that, Alan, of those coaches that we talked about, who's on OU staff in 27?
If I'm picking and those 5 are available, it's DeBoer. It's not even a question. I want him as my offensive coordinator, and he can bring Ryan Grubb with him. That sounds great.
How hard would it be for the players, though? I mean, think about it. Him and Brent look exactly the same when they wear the same clothes, and they're like, "Who is the signal coming from?"
No, that's a fair point. But I mean, I think DeBoer's a fantastic coach personally. I know that things haven't exactly ramped up at Bama, but I think he's a great coach. So if DeBoer wants to come and be Oklahoma's offensive coordinator, I'd bring him on.
Is that your final answer? Because I tend to agree that if DeBoer is either let go by Alabama or they both mutually agree to part ways, I mean, DeBoer's probably going to have a higher, softer landing spot than the OC at OU, which again is a very great position to have, but not necessarily for a proven, successful, winning, sitting currently head coach.
I don't see any way that DeBoer is not coaching at Alabama next year personally. Again, this would have to be one of those 27. He just signed that extension. If there a mutual parting of ways, there's just too much money on the line for him. And Alabama, I just don't see he won't be available in my mind.
Okay.
I mean, unless they like miss a bowl game or something, then they might find some money. Yeah. They might be like,
just call out a SWAT team or whatever, exactly. Or, get higher security for him or something. Yeah.
Let me entertain Josh Heupel for a second, because again, it's an OU podcast. Let me entertain it. I mean, Matt, you said it, and my brain kind of tends to go that direction too, similar with Kalen DeBoer if he's let go. And there are people talking about if Tennessee's not good this year, which they very well could not be good. Their schedule's tough. They don't know who their quarterback is. They lost some talent in the trenches. It could be pretty ugly for Heupel at Tennessee. And if that happens, my brain does initially go to he'll get a head coaching job somewhere. Like, he's a proven successful head coach in college. But then I think, but he's had a very interesting coaching career. And I don't know, I don't think he'd get an SEC job. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think he would get an SEC job. I don't see him going to the Big Ten to go coach Maryland. I don't know what their coaching situation's like. Is it the Loxley? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where he is in terms of the hot seat or the cold seat factor, or I don't even know if Maryland fans care about their football program. I don't see him going to a mid-tier Big Ten school to be a head coach. Somewhere in the ACC.
Florida State comes open? Would Florida State?
Well, would Florida State
more like
him?
Baylor?
Oh yeah, Baylor's a good.
Would he want to go?
If TCU comes up,
would he want to go to the Big 12?
Beggars can't always be choosers. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe easier path to the playoff too if he gets buy-in.
The point, as I grab the pen and do Lee Corso, the point that I'm trying to make is I think Josh Heupel is kind of in this interesting limbo of he's clearly proven it to be a good head coach, a great head coach in college, winning head coach. But he's also done it kind of wonky, in my opinion. No one cares about what you did at UCF when they were a group of 5 team. I mean, fair or unfair. And Tennessee, it's been really high or it's been very low. And it could potentially be low again this year if this scenario plays out. I'll entertain it this way. I think Josh Heupel's proven it enough that he can at least look at the scenario, the lay of the land, and say, that job that I want to have is not open. I'm going to go home and be the OC. Because again, let's say Ben Arbuckle takes a job somewhere else, and then, hey, Josh, you want to be the head coach or the offensive coordinator? And look, that sounds funny coming from me because don't hire friends and family bullshit, but this is a little bit different. It would be really cool to just essentially pair Josh Heupel's offense, his ability to get quarterbacks ingratiated very quickly on the fly, with Brent Venables' defense. And it's just this is what 2014 should have been had Brent Venables not been, shown the door officially, unofficially after the 2011 season, maybe. But, that's just me entertaining that thought. If you put a gun to my head, it's either Shane Beamer or Eli Drinkwitz. But, I mean, OU fans would lose it if Drinkwitz was hired, because the complete 180 of he's a great position coach addition from all the jokes and the slander on Twitter the last few years thrown at his feet. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Matt, I'll ask you.
Brent would do that.
I'll ask you, Matt. Is the Josh Heupel is that thought too out there for you?
I don't think so. Again, kind of not the same as Kalen DeBoer, but I do think Josh Heupel would land at another head coaching job. But if he did come back to OU, here's maybe a question for you guys more than me. It's different in the person that's calling the plays, but is his and Levy's offense not the same?
It's pretty Bear Raid-ish, yeah. But yeah. I've liked Josh's ability to adapt to his talents. Jeff Levy is kind of just, this is my system running, and I don't care.
Yeah,
what my personnel
Tennessee's had
is.
guys lead the lead the SEC in rushing too. Like the Samson kid a few years ago was really good.
Yeah, when Josh has talent, he knows how to use it.
Yeah, and he was also known when he was at OU, like his reputation in the coaching community at that time was like, this guy can draw stuff up on the whiteboard, come up with funky looks, all that kind of stuff. Like, so it wasn't just he's a system guy.
Yeah. Well, screw it. I'm in. Yeah.
I mean, it would just be like, I don't know. I just want to get to a place where, and he can't really worry about this as a sitting head coach at the SEC level. I just want to get to a place where whenever the 2000 team gets honored, Josh Heupel can come if he's free that day. That would just be cool. He needs to be. He got a really great ovation, and the fans treated him well when they came into Norman and won the game. And he was clearly emotional about it, but not in a very petty way. I thought he handled the entire situation as well as you could. So that to me at least opened the door that someday, Josh can come home. Whether it's as a coach, I don't know. That's pretty out there, but I don't know. We're all about nostalgia for the 90s and the early 2000s. So let's bring back Josh Heupel. Turning the page from OU into the college football realm. I don't want to spend too much time on this because, we talked about this on West of Everest on Sunday. Grant and Lee and I did, and I think I did a very bad job because I wasn't prepared for the conversation. But Greg Sankey essentially talked about the SEC breaking away from the NCAA and playing itself and playing each other, and then naming a national. I guess you would just name a national champion after the fact. My question for you, Alan, is: has the South ever broken away from anything?
It wouldn't be the first time, from what I.
Okay. Yeah, real quick, this is clearly just power play for headlines and attention and leverage and in the suits rooms, in the smoke-filled penthouse office suites, whatever. That's what that's for, I guess, pragmatically. Hypothetically, Alan, I'll ask you again, we don't have to spend that much time on it. Are we getting to a point where 10 years from now, we're talking about a super league of 45 to 55 teams playing for the national championship, and then everybody else that isn't at the big boy table is just playing for a lower level, just like there's FCS and FBS, like that exists, and everyone seems to have a fun time with it. Are we going to get closer potentially to the SEC, the Big Ten, and then a grouping of like Big 12, ACC, and maybe some of the Pac-12 schools joining, making a super league, and then moving forward with it?
Everybody seems to think that's where it's heading. I really don't know. I've given up trying to predict this because I see a lot of. I think that there are just like a lot more political and logistical hurdles to doing that, to forming this super league, that people just kind of hand wave away, that would make it tough. So yeah, I don't know if I'm willing to, make any predictions about that. But clearly, the SEC and the Big Ten, they're not going to just give everything that they have from a power standpoint, from an advantages standpoint, from a resources standpoint. They're not going to just give that away. They're not. Anything if the rest of the schools are, that dead set on, we all need to get on board together, then you'd have to, right? You at least have to think about that.
Yeah. Again, this is like perfect podcast fodder, but maybe it's just because we're so close to the season that when he said that, it got my attention. I was in the moment when he was talking about, when he was at the podium, I was writing the Trell Harris update story for Sooners on SI. So I'm like all up in my computer screen. He says that, and I'm just like, huh? Not now, Greg. Like, the season's too close. Let's talk about that in December, January, February, or whatever. Come on now. Oh, well, Matt, do you have visions of super leagues dancing in your heads yet, or no?
I felt like this is where college football was going to head for a while, to be honest with you. Like, this, the group of 5, group of 6 now, whatever it is, playing for their own title. to be honest with you. But I don't know. And this is doing nothing to sort of remove me from that logic, that area of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. Let's move on to Sark. Said that he hopes that Texas beats OU Parker Livingston's ass. And there's that extra context that he didn't seem like there wasn't really any venom in that statement. And from what I could tell, he was just very like, he's on the other team. I hope we beat him. Afterwards, I'm sure I'll go up, find him and go give him a big hug. But before the game, like, want to kick his ass. And if Brent Venables said that about an OU player that transferred to Texas, one, that would be very out of character, and I'll get to that in a second. It would be pretty out of character for Brent to say that. But if he did, for the sake of argument, OU fans would be like, that's just the way it goes. Just like for Sark, that's just the way it goes. He's not with Texas anymore, and he's at OU, and he's a player that we're trying to beat. Well, you juxtapose that with, I believe, a Georgia writer asked Brent Venables about Gentry Williams, and I don't know if Gentry's going to start. According to, and I can't remember the gentleman's name who joined Peyton on the Georgia preview pod a few weeks ago, he did mention Gentry Williams as a potential starter. So he's fairly high up on the depth chart, or expected to be a starter. And we all know if Gentry is healthy, which is unfortunately the big question for him. But if he's healthy, like he's a very good cornerback. He's a game-winning type of talent at cornerback. Whether or not he's going to be able to do that after all the injuries he's had is another question.
I was going to say, I haven't seen him play in 2 years. So
but when he was healthy and at his best, like he was that dude. And Brent gets asked about him, and he essentially just says, like, I'm not going to like going up against him, but I love Gentry Williams and I love his family, and whatever role he gets at Georgia, he's going to over-deliver. So, like, far be it for me to complain about storylines in the offseason, Alan, but, when you have those two comments kind of side by side about not exactly the same scenarios, again, Texas and Sark went into this, they had to make tough decisions and let Parker Livingston go and other players go so that they can bring in their minds, better talent to put around Arch Manning. They believe that they did that. OU did not let go of Gentry Williams to make way for other players. This was just like, we can't, whatever NIL he was getting paid, it's like we can't guarantee it next year because of your lack of availability, unfortunately. So you might want to look elsewhere. And both sides shook hands and love each other, and then he went to Georgia. So it's not exactly the same thing, Alan, but it does kind of paint a picture of how both coaches are very different in how they deal with incoming and outgoing players from their program.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it, right? Again, if Gentry Williams had transferred to Texas instead of Georgia, I don't know how Brent answers that question, but
I think he says it the same way.
You think so? Yeah.
I just think Brent's very genuine. I think this is a guy who would say glowing things about Jade Knott last year.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah.
He was kind of critical, but it was more vague, more like of a general state. Here's how I see every player on the roster every single day. Like, you've got to prove it every single day. It's not just specifically him. He would say nice things about Jade Knott. So even if you had like a high end player go to Texas, he'd be like, yeah, it's going to be a tough challenge for us because he's really good, but I love him. I get to see Brent doing that.
Yeah, I mean, Sark has always been on the brash side, even when he was, all the stuff at USC. But my larger point being, I thought it was interesting, really in general, that the way that he even discussed that stuff about the players that they let go, because I mean, everybody knows that, right? Like, Livingston, I'm sure they would love to keep him, but I mean, they couldn't afford it. And that's not like, I mean, that's just the way it is now. I didn't see it as any type of ill will. So, I mean, I guess from a PR standpoint, it's kind of odd that he would add any type of fuel to that fire. But like you said, that's more of like the taking it out of context type stuff. I didn't think that there was a lot of mean-spiritedness, honestly, in what Sark said. But you're right. I mean, it does. I know that I know that Gentry Williams and his family, from what I've been told, I mean, they really, really like Brent, so, I mean, I don't think that there's any ill feelings or there be any type of interest maybe on Brent's part to even kind of hint that there was some type of animosity there.
Yeah. I mean, either side, either answer is good, is fine. It
I
just
mean,
is. I mean, because Brent is the way that he is. I think that he's a very genuine person. And again, he's a guy with a very, very strict moral code. Like, this is a guy who was like, I will not take Clemson players with me, even though a lot of us are like, why? Like, why are you capping yourself like that? Like, when no one else would do that. And, but he kind of just sticks by what he thinks is right. Now, that doesn't necessarily that guarantee success or that it's better than how Sark is. If I'm going to be critical of anything about Sark, it's he, like you said, very brash and very cutthroat for a guy that really hasn't won jack shit. And again, far be it for me to not like, oh, well, they've owned OU. But again, OU has not been very good outside of 2 seasons of like in the Brent Venables tenure. And even then, last year, it was a struggle bus on offense. So if you're like, beating Oklahoma is very important at Texas, no doubt, like it is for OU to beat Texas every year, even when they're bad. But if you actually have national championship expectations, which is what Texas has had basically since year 3 under Sark, and all you do is just say, well, we've owned Brent Venables and OU, it's like, well, I mean, that's like step 1.
Yeah, and like I think that the thing that Sark keeps doing that in my mind bothers me is this crusade he's on about like strength of schedule and all this stuff, and what we need to do to make the playoff, that type of stuff, and pointing back at last season as though Texas's problem, like it's totally. I mean, it's disingenuous just to say, well, if we hadn't played Ohio State and we just played a different team, we would have made the playoff last year. Because the problem is, for most of the year, Texas didn't play like a playoff team. They were a top 15 or a top 20 team. And they beat OU or they beat A&M, but they got worked by Georgia. They barely beat Kentucky. They barely beat Mississippi State. They didn't look all that great beating, teams early in the year like UTEP. It's very presumptuous on his part, and it's the kind of thing too where like I don't know, he needs to be sending the message to his team like, we need to get better, not we got screwed last year, and harping on it like that. And you can't, and regardless of however he couches it, the way he keeps bringing it up, you can't have that both ways. You just can't.
Well, the other thing that stuck out to me about him was the creating cap space thing.
Yeah,
where he said, "Hey, to bring in Cam Coleman, Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, we had to let DeAndre Moore, Parker Livingston, Trey Wisner, C.J. Baxter go, and all that stuff." Like, to me, yeah, like those players that they brought in, all great players. I'm not trying to say that, but if you're like a high school recruit, and maybe it doesn't matter because Texas kids generally want to play at Texas. Mm-hmm. Like, they're never going to struggle getting recruits. Like, they never have, they never will. But like, I don't know, that'd be kind of setting off alarm bells to me. Like, oh, if I'm sitting here, like, DeAndre Moore had some good moments. Trey Wisner, I mean, had some really good moments as Texas running back. Baxter just got hurt a bunch, or else he probably would have been a really good back as well. But Livingston had a pretty decent year last year. Like, man, I don't know if or if I'm on the roster right now, I'm being like, man, even if I produce like a little bit, I might just get the axe. Just say, hey, get out of here, man. We're trying to bring in someone better. Like, I don't know, it'd be a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna sit here and kind of poke holes in Jim Nagy and Brent Venables being like very courageous or braggadocious about the tight end transformation from 25 to 2026, then Sark's comments on bringing in better talent and being better than they were this time right now than they were this time last year, that's that statement on steroids, because it's like, you better be. If you are not, oh boy. Because not only will that lead to like losses, that will lead to fans that have rolled with you will suddenly be like, you cannot do it. Like, you do not have it. And that's not where you want to be if you're a head coach at a place like Texas or OU. You don't want to have portions of your fan base think that you can't do it. It could always be worse, I guess. Any other thoughts, Alan or Matt?
I think I'm good.
No, I'm good, man.
Well, let's get out of here then. Like I said, guys, we've got one more free show and then fall camp starts. And who knows how many Tuesday pods I'll be on in August. Have no idea what the schedule is going to be like for availability, but might have to miss a few shows because they might have availabilities on Tuesdays. So we've got 4 hosts on the show. I'm sure we could all manage it. So look forward to fall camp starting. Like I said a few times, patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. We've got extra podcasts. We've got one extra one per week consistently for sure. And then we'll have Peyton do preseason pods continuing into August. And then I'm sure he'll do opponent previews once the season starts as well. So look forward to that. And then keyholepod.com, that's the free website. Go check that out and go check out Alan's writings. But yeah, we're excited for the season to start, just like all of you. And we're excited for the listeners that have been with us, the new listeners, the old ones. We like it. We enjoy it. Tell your friends about Through the Keyhole. But until next time, for the absent Peyton Guthrie and the present Matt Burton, Alan Kinney, and myself, Brady Trantham, everybody, so long. Thank you so much for listening to Through the Keyhole. Until next time, Boomer!
See you later.